On January the 7th and 8th, 1994, in Chicago, Illinois, Imam WDM Muhammad, Muslim American spokesman for human salvation, conducted a two-day lecture series on the campuses of Malcolm X College and the University of Chicago. The title of this series, Nationalism and Islam and How They Have Influenced Each Other. We now present part one of this series recorded at Malcolm X College, January the 7th, 1994.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. نستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به عز وجل وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. In brief, what I have said is we always praise God, we give thanks to God. We worship Him and Him alone, associating nothing in worship with Him. We put our trust in Him, and we salute the last prophet Muhammad, the messenger and servant of God, with the traditional salute. The prayers and the peace be on him, on his descendants, his companions, and what follows of that traditional salute to the prophet, and on us be peace. Ameen. We are very pleased to be here tonight to support a very worthy cause, that is the radio broadcast, and our business people who have carried that responsibility for some time now. And as it was said, only a few of them have carried that responsibility and are still accepting to carry the responsibility. This interruption in the broadcast is temporary, and I'm sure that they're going to be successful in raising money and acquiring money to keep the broadcast on. So once it's on again, you should make it your decision to never let it be off again, unless you're buying a station or a station. I was listening to the words saying, let's not be disillusioned. I've been doing this now for a lot of years, and some of my best audiences have been small ones, smaller than this. There have been some smaller than this that I appreciated more than I appreciated some that was very large. So we are not in control of these things. Allah, God, is in control of everything. We just plan and do our best and leave it to Allah, leave it to God. It doesn't stop me. I'm just as happy to speak to one man if he's sincere. Praise be to Allah. Now, we do want to record this though, because we can pass it around to others later. All right, Brother John? All right, Brother John. The topic we want to talk on today is nationalism and Islam, how Islam has influenced nationalism. And we should add, and how nationalism has influenced Islam. You see, we didn't want to put too much into the wording, but we want to talk about nationalism and Islam. That's what we're talking about. And two of them have influenced each other. I don't want to begin with the Nation of Islam, the Lost Foundation of Islam, as it was called when I was a boy. You know, we never heard just the Nation of Islam when I was a young boy, when I was a boy and young teenager. Never just the Nation of Islam, the Lost Foundation of Islam. Then later on, it was just to cut it short and say the Nation of Islam. And when we read in the papers or booklets about the Nation of Islam, it would identify the Nation of Islam as the lost to found Nation of Islam in the wilderness of North America. That was the complete description of this Nation of Islam, the lost found Nation of Islam in the wilderness of North America. When we look at civilization itself, how nations have come into power, how communities have grown and organized and formed nations, and nations have become powerful and began to compete with each other, war with each other, form bonds of allegiance with each other for benefits of more power, more land. When we study the history of nations, we see those who follow the line of civilized progress, surviving those that just go for power without some kind of value checking that power. The nations that have survived have been nations that have upheld civilization, that have lifted up civilization, and have pledged themselves to always be committed to protect, preserve, hold up civilization. Those are the nations that have survived. We have come to a time now where any nation that will turn to barbarism or indicate that it has no civilization checking it anymore, it is condemned immediately, and some or all of the nations right away stop it. They stop that nation. They put that nation out of business. So this is progress for man. This is a lot of progress for man on earth. We have a term in the language of Islam. When I say the language of Islam, I'm having reference to the Qur'an and the true life of Muslims and the true history of Islam. That's what I'm having reference to. We have a term in Islam, or al-Islam, and it's called ummah. Ummah. Ummatun means nation. Ummatun, translated nation. But is this nation like the nation of the United States, America, or nation like the nation of Libya, or the nation of China, Russia, these nations? No, it's not. This is different. This nation is quite different. Nations, to become nations, they have to achieve some kind of order for their society and some kind of purpose for their society. What are they committed to? Surviving, economic growth. Most of them are committed to serving the members of that nation or their nations. That's what their commitment is, to serve the members of their nation. So if we can just stop there for a minute, and we know this is the case. Wherever you go, all nations pretend to be serving their members, the members in their nation, their citizens. Whether they're doing it or not, they claim to be doing it. If nations then are really valued, established, and valued for protecting their members, their citizens, and serving the welfare of the good of their citizens, then nations are really established for the human being, for the human being. And nations progress as individual members begin to want more of their human life, not their destructive life or beast life, animal life, their human life. The more they desire their human life and put pressure on their nation to accommodate their human life and their human aspirations, the more the nation progresses, the more the nation itself progresses as it accommodates the human growth of its individual members. Am I making myself clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now, we have two movements for our purpose here tonight that give character to the nation. One movement is the movement that does not hold God to be the authority, the authority.
Yes.
And the other movement that gives character to nations is the movement that ignores God and just establishes their national purpose without bringing their nation under God. Under God. Now, strangely enough, most nations in medieval times and even in ancient times, well, in ancient times and medieval times, we had the two, but we had the great nations, really great nations, they were either searching for God or claiming to be serving God. You know, even ancient Egypt claimed to be a divine order. And, you know, we say, oh, Pharaoh, ancient Egypt, that was no divine order. But they claimed to. They claimed that. They claimed that. And when we look at the Qur'an and see the issue taken up in the Qur'an, the issue of nation and national life, the Qur'an is not teaching us politics and government. The Nation of Islam is showing us what accounts for the long life and success of nations and what bring about the demise or the death, the destruction and death of nations. And it gives us the history of one nation after another, and it tells us that what brought about their end was their disrespect for God. As long as they regarded God in the right way, was sincere in regarding Him, God permitted them long life and permitted them growth and power. But when they left off having regard for God and started to dismiss God as the important matter for them, they began to decline, began to have trouble, and finally fell to destruction. This is history. This is history. Now, we know historians may give other reasons for the fall of certain nations. But as believers in Allah, we say the nations fall because they don't respect God, because they lose respect for God. We don't have to go away behind us to see this. America wasn't as, I would say, fair by its citizens when it comes to recognizing color, national origin, the color of the skin. America wasn't as fair to its citizens 30 years ago, 50 years ago as it is now. But America was at least having an awareness in the public that God is to be respected. That's right. 40, 50 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago. And when America had that, America had leadership. America had power, whether it was liked or not. Then came the disrespect, the loss of respect for sacred matters, the loss of respect for God in the public. Never think that the public leads itself. The public never leads itself. The public is always led by influences bigger than the public. Public can't lead itself. Public's always led by influences bigger than the public. What I mean by bigger, more powerful. Having more power, more influence. So then the nation allows its public to be taken from God consciousness, to be taken from a respect, an awareness of God and a respect for God. Has America lost because of that? Yes. America still has leadership in some areas. America still has a lot of power. But America does not have the respect internationally, the power in the international arena, or the authority or leadership in the international arena that it once had. It has lost that. And we've come to a time where leaders in America seem to be bankrupt. They don't seem to know themselves how to lead their nation. It is pitiful. But for some reason, America is still more intact than other nations. For some reason. Now, I'm going to give you my reason. I say my reason because this is my opinion. I'm going to give you my reason. My reason is that America is a country that took up itself an experimental idea. An experimental idea. America as a nation started off believing in democracy. But it didn't have democracy. And what it tolerated for centuries was not any democracy. How could it be democracy when we were enslaved in physical bondage and treated like brute beasts? How could that have been a decent kind of democracy? So that was not really the civilized democracy, but it committed itself to democracy. And because it committed itself to democracy, it has grown more and more human. Its society, the nation, the power, the government has grown more and more human. Trying to respect what? Its citizen. Its citizen. That's what we began with. Its citizen. The individual member citizen. So it couldn't exclude us forever. It had to include us in the citizenry of this country. And the people of stronger moral life, better respect for God, they just couldn't tolerate us being in slavery and classified as subhuman and second-class citizens forever. They couldn't tolerate that. So the pressure came to bear from the humanity of the people, and we were freed eventually from physical bondage. Because nations must be established for their member citizens. And in time, every member citizen has to get the same respect, same justice that every other citizen gets. You see? That has to come if they keep that commitment. Now, we have many nations that were brutal, savage nations. They just organized for material power, for conquest, to conquer another people. They organized for that. To impose their way on other people and to use other people as their resources, their labor, their wealth, whatever they had, just to take it into themselves. In other words, they were animals feeding on others. Right? They were animals, animal nations feeding on others that they would conquer, subdue. We have the wild people of Asia, the wild people of Africa. In history, the wild people of every continent have done that. They have done that. And sometimes it looked like they were so mighty. It looked like they had the power. But we see that eventually they have to submit to the God-fearing nations. Isn't that wonderful? This is history. See, this is history. If we only can have enough patience to go back and study what has happened. Not just 2 or 3 days or 2 or 3 years or 200 or 300 years ago. Go way back. Go study as far back as you can. Go look at what has happened, what has developed, and what has happened on this earth for human beings. And if you don't come to accept God, you got to be out of your mind. Are you a devil? Or you're just Satan, you know? You have to be out of your mind. Because the will of God is plain. The will of God prevails all the time. Now, when we look at the present nations, we see Russia, the Soviet Union, just lost its power. It's no more a competitor. Isn't that something?
Yes, sir.
Look, Allah says, and we wonder about things like that, Allah said yesterday they were rejoicing, and all of a sudden,
Yes.
in the night, they were playing and happy. The day came, and it was all over for them. Happened like in one day. Well, that's almost how it happened with the Soviet Union. It happened so fast, and we had to shake our heads. We thought we were dreaming maybe, or having a nice, some kind of, fantasizing, under some spell or something. You say, is this real? Am I awake? But it's true. But let me bring something else to our attention. Before the Soviet Union failed, China had already failed. Now, some of us think, well, China's still there. China, a big communist nation there. No, China did it the cool way.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, China did it the cool way. Almost passive war.
Yes.
They locked up the Notorious Four. And I'm using their language, that ain't my language. Now, who were the Notorious Four? Hard communist people. Hardcore communists that wanted to bring Mao image back.
Right. That's right.
Wanted to revive the old fervor for Maoism.
Yeah.
They didn't succeed. They failed. They were in prison. Their fate is over now. And ever since then, we've seen a more and more moderate kind of line that the great country of China, Red China, has been taken. So this should wake us up. These things should wake us up. I used to say as a minister for my father, I used to say, any nation that would deny God and would establish itself on an idea that did not give recognition to God, that nation would have to fail, that nation would not be preferred over a God-fearing nation, or a nation that acknowledged God, even though the nation that acknowledged God was more sinful in our nation, in our eyes, more sinful in our eyes than the nation that did not acknowledge God. And believe me, I've seen socialism and the Soviet Union and communism. I've seen it as being less sinful when it comes to the popular sins that we know of in religion. I've seen those nations being much less sinful than America. America and Europe, the West, to me has been the most sinful of all nations. Even now, in my opinion, America is the most sinful of all nations. But if we look closely and see that the American people on the whole and the government, because of the position of the American people, respect God, then we must say, even though America has the most sins, America doesn't have the worst sin. The worst sin is to deny God.
Yes. That's it.
I don't know what you all thought I was going to come here and talk about tonight.
Go ahead.
But I'm talking about nationalism. But we have to set the stage for what I'm going to present to you. And in order to set the stage, we have to see the truth.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Allahu Akbar.
And the truth is, the will of God prevails.
Allahu Akbar. Fact. Fact. Yes, sir.
We forget. We forget yesterday, last year. We forget history, and we lose the moral sense to really perceive truth. So you have to have the moral sense to perceive truth. So you forget to look back, you forget to study what has happened, and then you lose the moral sense. And even if somebody came and showed you what happened, you wouldn't recognize it because you done lost the moral sense. The moral sense is gone, you know? We are Muslims. And as Muslims, we should believe in everything that Allah has revealed in the Qur'an for us to believe in. Even if we don't know, we should order ourselves to accept what Allah has ordered for us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
See, did the Prophet Abraham, peace be on him, the Prophet Ibrahim, did he like what he had to do? No. He didn't like what he had to do. I imagine he was gritting his teeth when he was thinking about it. Ah, this is too much for me. But his faith was sound. His faith was whole. So he had to do it even though it was hurting him, killing him almost. What was that? He had to offer his son as a sacrifice. Yes. But Allah is not a God of our imagination. He is the real God. So he didn't want any blood sacrifice. And that's what the scripture says, right? God does not want any blood sacrifice. Allah says in the Quran, the blood does not reach him. When you sacrifice, no blood comes to him. He does not come. He does not accept the blood. He accepts your taqwa. He accepts your God consciousness, that you're conscious of him and you're fearing him and you want to obey him. That's what he accepts, your taqwa. We are to believe in God. We are to believe in God's angels. We are to believe in the prophets, in the books, in their books, the revelations from God. We are to believe in all these things. I believe in angels. God says we are to believe in angels. I believe in angels. So we are not just under God. We're under God. We're also under his angels. Because he has ordered his angels too to carry out certain responsibilities in our lives. Yes, they have charge of certain matters in our life. So if we just set on going the wrong way and we determine to go that way, and no kindness from parents and friends and God, no mercy from God in any form reaches us, then the angel of death takes over. God puts the angel of death in charge over us and take away the angel of mercy. The angel of mercy is taken away and you're left only with the angel of death. Nations are too. Yes, nations are too. When they prove that they are not worthy anymore of God's grace, of his mercy, then the angels of mercy pull back and leave them to the angels of death. I don't want to be left to the angels of death. No, indeed. Freedom is a great word, but not freedom to do our own thing, freedom to do God's will. That's the great freedom. That's that precious freedom. That's the freedom that makes nations great. Freedom to do God's will. A nation like the United States of America and other Western nations, even maybe others can be included too, believe that it is the will of God for every human being to have the freedom to enjoy to the fullest the human life. The human life. You hear what I say? I'm going to say it again. The human life. Now, when you give up trying to be a better human being and you start behaving as a wild, crazy animal with the rabies or something, you lose that protection. You lose that respect from your nation. And they lock you up and they tell you don't have any freedom now. Right?
That's a fact.
Yes. Well, you know, sometimes we have to not just look at the public life and the shopping mall and these places to see what reality is for us in our nation. Because if we look at these places and look at the streets, we say, oh, our nation lets us kill ourselves, destroy ourselves, kill each other, destroy each other. Our nation let us put dope in our veins and drink liquors and just mess up our families and our everything. We may come to such conclusion. But go look to the jailhouse, go to the penitentiaries, and you'll find people that do that locked up.
That's right. That's a fact.
And we have to admit that Satan has a powerful place, powerful role
Yes.
in the nations.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir.
I think some nations, they grow so tired of fighting with Satan that they just give up and say, well, Satan, you free too. This democracy is for you too.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So then freedom is a situation, becomes a situation for all the forces of that society to be in competition with each other. So it becomes a highly competitive society eventually if freedom is continuously promoted. It becomes a highly competitive society. Competition becomes so great until you're competing all day long, every day. You have to compete. So in time, this kind of freedom brings us back to the raw order of society. When I say raw, I mean savage. Raw, savage order of society, where everything is in competition with the other for survival. These things have been predicted. See, it would take too long for me to tell you all this. I'm telling you a whole lot. I'm giving you a whole lot. It would take me too many hours to give you all that I'm giving you if I would give you references from the books. Take too long, much too long. Now, when communism raised its head, the religious leadership began to think the end of the world was very near.
Okay.
And the religious leadership, not just one religion, that's why I'm saying leadership. It was not just one religion, said that the end of the world is here. Some even gave the date, 1914.
Yes.
You will find it now in some books written by very brilliant, intelligent, learned people. That 1914, the end of the world. Now, those that were telling this, they were speaking decades after 1914. Pointing back to 1914, the end of the world. Now, we may chuckle, but if you slow down,
Yes, sir.
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the end of America was in his time.
Yes, he did.
And I agree with him.
Yes, sir.
I agree with him. It was. America, as America has been known, died in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's time.
All right, sir. Fact.
And a totally new America is here now. This is not the same America.
Fact.
That America is dead and gone.
Yes.
And Western power, as it was dreamed to be, died when communism came on scene. And they knew what was happening. See, communism just didn't come up and jump up all of a sudden. It had to grow and develop. There had to be people thinking that way. There had to be organization and work done and get support for it. So the birth of communism most likely came even before Marx himself. But Marx was the brain to bring about what they wanted. He was the brilliant one to bring about and articulate what they want. But I'm sure they were planning in secret all the time to bring communism on the face of the earth. And when they found the right people to be responsible for it, then it was established. They got the support for it, and it was established. Think about this. In 1930, 31, 32, 33, during these years, a lot of things were going on that were making the religious world think that Armageddon was here. They saw the communist forces and the free world forces one day coming to clash with each other because they were inherently against enemies by nature, enemies. The two ideas are by nature enemies of each other. Communism and democracy. They are by nature or freedom. The two are by nature enemies of each other. One controlling everything and controlling labor, business, everything from a central power or central authority. The other allowing all these things to be free and to operate, they call free enterprise. So these two systems were enemies by nature of each other. And then one says no God in its idea.
That's right. That's right.
And the other one says God in its idea.
That's right.
I'm referring now to the documents, the precious documents of those two ideas. In the preamble or the introduction to the Constitution of the United States, God is recognized. And God the Creator is recognized. It didn't say God the Son.
No.
It said God the Creator.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
Is recognized. Okay? But in the communist idea, and I've read the communist papers, God is dismissed.
That's right.
They base everything on the nature, law, dynamics of materialism.
Yes. Yes.
That has failed now.
That's right.
I want to say that again.
Yes.
That has failed now.
All right, boy.
But look what happened to the religious leadership. The religious leadership reading their scriptures, and Muslims reading Qur'an, all of them begin to think, this is the big day. The big day is close. The big day is close. So now, the angels begin to work for God, and the men begin to work for God, and some of the men get confused, and they think themselves angels. You know, when you get real desperate to work for God, you know, sometimes you may get a little drunk and feel confused, you see. You get a little heavy-headed, too heavy-headed. They lose their senses, and they think they're no men. Now they're angels. They're working for God. We got to bring this day on, you know. Got to bring this day on. So they come up with their scheme. And Allah says in the Quran, highly glorified is He, and they scheme a scheme. And I scheme a scheme. God schemes a scheme.
Yes.
Now, how are we to understand that?
Okay.
I think we are to understand it just as it's given literally, but we are also to understand it in a higher and more important picture too, than just scheme a scheme and scheme a scheme. Man schemes a scheme according to his capacity, power, ability, etc., to scheme a scheme.
Right.
But God schemes a scheme quite differently. How does God scheme a scheme? God schemes a scheme before you scheme a scheme.
All right, boy. All right, boy. Yes, sir.
God schemes a scheme before you scheme a scheme. And whatever you scheme is dependent upon the scheme of God.
All right, boy. That's a fact.
Whatever you scheme have already been taken care of by the scheme of God that was before your scheme.
All right, boy. Yes, sir. All right. That's a fact.
So here come the all of the volunteer soldiers for God. And they are going to bring the Armageddon on. Nationalism. What makes a religious person, a sincere religious person now, get really seriously interested in nationalism?
Good question.
The day of Armageddon is close. The day of Armageddon is here. We were told that the time of Armageddon had come, and it was the crescent against the cross, cross against the crescent. As a boy, I used to sit in the temple on the seats and look at the blackboard. One side of the blackboard was painted. The other side was for work, for writing, putting notes and making figures of whatever he wanted to do to get his message, his speech across. And usually the meeting started with the painted side facing the audience. And newcomers would come there, and what they'd see was one of us with a rope around, hangman's noose on his neck, hanging from a tree.
That's right.
And right next to him, the cross.
That's right.
And on the other side, you would see a flag, looked like the Turkish flag, the flag of the nation, the Turks nation. And it had F, J, E, and I on its corners, 4 corners. And the letters stood for freedom, justice, equality, Islam. And Islam was in the staff. Islam was in the staff of it. And freedom, justice, equality were on the other 3 corners. And there was writing between the 2 drawings. The writing said, which one will win the war of Armageddon?
Yeah, that's right.
And that was used for years. Yes, that was used for years. Before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stopped using it, discontinued that. Armageddon. What is Armageddon? Armageddon is the gathering together of forces that are determined to dominate the earth. Gathering together for a showdown to see who will survive, who will rule and be the victor. And it is believed that the forces will be the forces of corruption and the forces of decency. The forces of corruption and the forces of decency. Forces of decency led by God-fearing people. Forces of corruption led by the ungodly. This is what is believed. And some have even pointed to certain places on the map, thinking that's the place for the great showdown. That's the place for the OK Corral shootout. There it is right there, Palestine, in Jerusalem, you see. I'm not a preacher of the Bible, but I think the Bible will say, wherever the carcass is, that's where the eagles shall be gathered. So, I laugh sometime to take the pain out of these things. So, believe me, the war of Armageddon has been on for a long, long time.
All right,
That war has been on for a long, long time. Since the dawning of civilized man, that Armageddon has been on. But certain times bring on a climactic hour, where the forces just become so huge and so great, and sin multiplies so much until it brings about the end of the order for the whole globe, the order that was known before, the end of the global order. This end, and a new order comes about. Don't you know Islam brought in a new order for the globe?
Yes, sir.
The globe hasn't been the same since Islam appeared in Arabia. That's right.
That's a fact.
The globe hasn't been the same since.
All right, brother.
So all of these forces are in competition with each other. And nations are in competition with each other. And men get confused, and they think they are not just men soldiers or human soldiers in Allah's army. They think they are angels in Allah's army. They get confused.
That's right.
And they get confused, and they act out the life and the role and the aspirations of an...
End of side 1. At this time, please turn the cassette over to continue on side 2.
When the angel really has no power to do anything except conform to what God wants without question, without deviation, without any rationalizing. Angels don't rationalize. Men rationalize. So I was told that a certain person, well, I have to say, that the teacher of my father said, well, I agree with you that he was not God. He was an angel. Say he was an angel. Well, if he was an angel, find the angel. The one that I know is the man. Now, but did he himself act as an angel? Yes. Yes. He assumed the role of an angel also, though he was a man. But in my understanding, based upon my knowledge of religion, he was never anything but a man. You can't be an angel if you're a man. The man is a man, an angel is an angel. You can't have the both of them. Now, let us look a little closer at what we're talking about here now. Some of us think that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, just on his own, introduced his teacher as God. That's not true.
Sir.
We have the words of his teacher speaking in the first person, not the second person or third, speaking in the first person. He says, and speaking of us and our condition, our sad, pitiful state here, he says, and no help came to them, that they had prayed for help, they sought help from everywhere. No help came to them until the coming of the Son of Man. This is his word. This is the words of the teacher of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, anytime he calls himself the Son of Man and says that his coming is the coming of the Son of Man, he is saying not in Islamic language, he's saying in Christian Western language that he is God. We go to the Bible where Jesus wanted his identity to be clear, according to the gospel, according to the Bible. Everything in the Bible won't stand up before the Qur'an. Okay? So let's have that clear. And this won't stand up before the Qur'an. But he said to his disciples, he asked them, who do you say I am? And they obviously they couldn't give the right answer. He said, Peter, who do you say I am? He spoke to Peter, his apostle, his disciple, Peter. He said, who do you say I am? And Peter's answer was that he was the Son of Man, the living God. This is Peter, the Son of Man and the living God. And according to the Bible, Jesus was satisfied with Peter's answer, that the Son of Man is also the living God. Son of Man and the living God. Now, see, if you want to prove the Bible, you have to take the Bible to prove it. You can't prove the Bible going outside of the Bible. Where's the proof that this is the right understanding? The genealogy of Jesus is traced back to Adam, the first man. So he is the Son of Man by that reasoning. And the gospel also says that after tracing his genealogy back to Jesus, to Adam, says Adam, who was the Son of God. Adam, who was the Son of God. So, the Bible, gospel, says that Jesus is the son of Adam, but Adam is the son of God. So therefore, Jesus is the Son of God. No, this is in the gospel. You don't but I'll show it to you anytime you want to see it. I hope you'll look it up yourself. This is in the gospel, the New Testament, the genealogy of Jesus. Find it for yourself and read it. So it says this. Now, how come he's the Son of God? Because he had no father. Adam had no father. I'm giving you their reasoning, not ours. He had no father. He had no mother. God made him and placed him in there. So the Bible is saying, just like God created Jesus, and he had no father, no mother, nothing. He came directly from God. That he had done this also for Jesus. That Jesus had come directly from God. While at the same time, in his flesh, he had descended from Adam, who was flesh, the first flesh. That's what it's saying. And if Farad now takes the same language, and he says that I am the Son of Man, he's saying the same thing. And now I shouldn't be allowed to go out of the context, just like I shouldn't be allowed to go out of the context of the Bible to prove what I said that's in the Bible. I shouldn't be allowed to go out of the context of the teaching of Farad to prove what I said about him either. Now, do we have any further proof of that idea? Yes. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that his teacher told him that there was no God but man. Man have always been God. And that it's passed down from one man to another, usually his son, passed down from one man to another, and that God stays in the man all the time. And that the first man created himself. This is what the Honorable Elijah told her. He said that's what his teacher taught him. Okay, so here now is a new idea of the concept of God, and also a new idea of the concept of man's origin or man's beginning. New idea. But the same idea of the God-man, or the flesh and blood God-man. Same idea. It's the same idea. And the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he is working in the Bible and in the gospel and not in the Qur'an.
Yes. Yes.
So he says, again, I come as a thief in the night.
That's right.
And there are plenty followers of his still living, followers of Farad, not the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There are still followers of Farad still living, and they say that when he came, he said, you see me now in the garments of the KV. KV meant the white man. Say these dyed garments, colored garments. He said, one day you'll see me in my holy raw robes. This is what he taught them. So what is he talking about? Is this man talking straight talk? No. He's talking in double language.
That's right.
Double language.
Right.
The language has to be understood by translation.
Right.
By translation. You have to translate his words to understand what he's saying.
That's right.
Is there any proof in his work teachings to back that up, what I'm saying? Yes. He said, and you will not be successful unless you study and use the terms, use the proper terms. You have to come to use the proper terms if you are to speak well. That's the language. You have to be able to use the proper terms in order to speak well. What is he talking about? This is a man talking double talk. What is he talking about when he says speak well? He means speak clearly. He means to speak plainly, to know plainly what is being said. You have to know the terminology and be able to use the words in their proper terms. That is saying that terms that you're looking at are improper. They have to be taken out of those improper terms and put in the proper terms. Now he says he's coming as a thief in the night. I'm talking about nation. Still talking about nation. Nationalism, influence on Islam influence on nationalism. So how now are we to understand a thief in the night? Is it a thief, just a literal thief in the night, the kind of thief that any man on the street understands? When you say a thief in the night, no, it's not that kind of thief. This is a thief coming in, the night means coming into your hereditary life. Into your hereditary life. What is your hereditary life? The life that you don't control with your conscious mind. That's your hereditary life. So this is a thief coming in your hereditary life. And he's coming into your hereditary life so that he can operate through your hereditary life and bypass your conscience.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes.
He's coming so that your conscience won't be able to detect him.
Yes.
So he's going to steal from your hereditary depository. He's going to steal from that without your conscience detecting him. Without your mind detecting him.
Yes, sir.
That's coming as a thief in the night.
All right, Father. All right, Father.
Now, this is not approved in the light of what the Qur'an has established. This is only in the Bible. Only in the Bible. But he says he come that way. He comes as a thief in the night, wearing dyed garments. What is dyed? Colored. What is colored? Falsified. What is garment? Knowledge. Knowledge.
Yes. Yes.
You wear knowledge as your protection. You wear knowledge as your clothing.
Yes.
Just as we wear clothes to make us more decent in the public, we wear knowledge to make us more decent in the public.
All right, Father.
Just as clothes give us a protection, knowledge give us a protection.
Yes, sir.
So he's coming with a garment of knowledge that is false. Falsehood has put into it. It has been made false. Dyed, colored. At the same time, he's charging the white man with being the colored man.
Yes.
Yeah, he said, who is the white man? The so-called white man. He didn't even accept that he's white. He says, who's the so-called white man?
Yes.
Yaku's wrath the devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. Right? Yes. But before he said that, he said the colored man. The so-called white man. Yaku's wrath the devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. So he called him the colored man first.
Yes.
Then he said Yaku's wrath the devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. Colored man means false man. In that language. In that language. See, that's another thing we have to understand. You can say something in common language, take that and put it in an uncommon language text, and it will say something altogether different. What you say in the common language, put it in an uncommon language text, will say something altogether different. And I can give you many examples of that. Yes. Now, let's get back to this competition. So we have this great competition going on. Great competition going on. And men anticipating, men of great ambition, great devotion, and great knowledge. They're competing with each other, and nations competing with each other to get the prize. Who is going to be the victor? And they're warring with each other. Don't you know Farad actually made war on America's life?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, he made war on America's life with his teachings in the African American community. He was declaring war on America's life. And he was operating through the hereditary life forces of us.
Yes. Yes.
And we were not even conscious of the war that we were being put into.
All right, Father. Fact.
We were told not to fight.
That's it. That's right.
They don't fight. Don't fight him. Allah will fight him alone. They leave it to Allah. all we were to do was just to teach and bring our people, but leave the actual fighting with the white man to Allah. Farad was fighting with the white man through us.
That's right.
And we were his unconscious army.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Unconscious of the war that was really going on. Let me tell you what I have come to conclusion, the conclusion that I have come to. The teachings of Farad has done more for the white man of America and the world than it has done for the black man of America and the world.
Yes, sir.
Now you may say, how is that? It has shown him himself. It has made him, forced him to look at his subject, black man, black woman again. Forced him to look at him and think about it all over again. It has forced him to look at himself and question his own mind, his own position, his own, I would say, not only position, but his own pledge, his own commitment to his way of life, to his objectives. Made him look at himself and look at his plan again for his world. And find himself, his big mistakes in his own life.
Yes.
Farad's teaching has helped America and the West, the white man, to find the big mistakes that they made in their own life.
Yes.
He turned the light on for them more than he turned the light on for us.
I like that.
In fact, he turned the light off for us and turned the light on for them. He did. But you know, turning the light on for them helped them, and turning the light off for us helped us.
I like that. Yes.
But I still say he helped them more than he helped us. But turning the light off for us helped us. When he turned the light off on our perception of reality, he helped us.
I like that.
And our perception of reality is what we got from the white world. We saw the world of stars and earth and everything and man and animals. We saw it through the eyes of the white man.
Right.
But when Farad gave us his new idea of everything, then we had to see everything through the eyes of Farad. And when we saw things through the eyes of Farad, we were in nothing but darkness.
I like that. Yes.
Where we thought we were in the light. We thought we were in the light. Oh, I know I was in the light, brother. Well, you might be right, but you're not understanding me.
I like that.
Now, you know, arithmetic is arithmetic. It was arithmetic before Farad, it's arithmetic still. So if he turns you on to arithmetic, and arithmetic is working well for you, but you're right. Money was money before him, and money is money now. So if he turned you on to money, and money is working good for you now, and you're right. You know, using your five senses, you say, well, he taught me to use my five senses. Well, the Christian that believes in his Christianity, he says the same thing, that he uses his five senses. But if your five senses won't bring you out of darkness, out of confusion, out of falsehood, then you have five senses that you think you're using, but you're not using them.
Yes.
Your five senses are enslaved by falsehood. You see? Yeah. So I agree with you when you say he improved certain things like money, but as far as our brain, Farad did not improve our brain. Farad did not improve our intellect. Farad did not improve our common senses. We were doing much better with our common senses before Farad than we were doing after Farad.
I like that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But he improved our moral sense.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he improved our moral sense because he made us condemn the white man for our moral behavior. That made it easy for us to change our moral behavior. Because we wasn't at fault anyway, it was the white man.
That's right.
You see? Well, when you tell a man that something is his, he hates to put it down, even though it's nasty and filthy and stinking. But if he'd been called it his all the time and bragging, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, say, man, it stinks.
Yes.
It doesn't stink. It's nasty. It ain't nasty. That's your opinion. You see? But if you tell him, say, hey man, you know that guy that you don't like there? Say, you know where that suit came from you wearing? He said, well, I don't know. I forgot where it came from. I said, well, it came from that guy. And that guy, man, he tricked you into wearing that suit. He ready to take off this suit. Yeah, get rid of this suit. But we were ready to change our mind, change our thinking, change our moral senses, because we were told that the white man had given us that, so we had to throw it away, throw it off. So in throwing off the white man's, what we thought was a white man's moral thinking, we took on our own independent moral thinking, and we began to try to be Muslims in our morals. And that was good. So, not saying that he doesn't have pluses, he has a lot of pluses and also minuses. Yeah, a lot of positive and also negative. Now, nationalism is good if we understand it in a different kind of language text or language context. But in the political context, nationalism have been more injurious to the citizens than anything else I know of. Nations in the name of nationalism or in the name of the national good or the national will have done terrible things to other nations and also to their subjects. Right. We know that. Right. And those nations that didn't separate themselves from national identity, but those nations that saw a bigger purpose for humanity and began to work with other nations, good people in other nations, or other nations that were committed to good ends for the good of humanity, those nations became more and more human, less and less beast or mad animal. Yes. So nationalism in the political context have not been good. It's been ugly. It's an ugly word. Nation. What is nation? We look at the word nation. What do we think? What is the word? You know, we learn things by experience, like a child, right? You learn things like a child by experience. A child learned to call that floor, to call this light, right? And it knows that's a light because you told it that's light, and it knows what it's experiencing from the light. I can see in the light. So it comes to know light by you pointing to it and saying light. Comes to know floor by you saying this is floor and it's walking on it. And it knows all, so it learns that what I walk on is floor. It learns that by experience, right? Okay, so some words are not so easy to learn by experience as those words. Nation is not that easy to learn by experience. So we learn by experience too. The average person only knows by experience what a nation is. We hear them on TV, on the radio saying it's a nation. We learn that America is a nation. All the people together, this is a nation. So we learn that all the people together, under one authority, under one law, under one ruler, that's a nation, right?
Yes.
Well, that could be a lot of things other than a nation, couldn't it? Yes, it could. It could be a lot of things other than a nation. Because I'm sure that some people were already organized together in one group under one authority, occupying one geography, and were not calling themselves a nation.
Yes.
We know that. This is history. Okay. So, now, why is this word nation so precious? Because the word nation refers back to origin. Origin. The teacher, Farad, and not only him, there are other religious teachers too that have this love for this term nation. He chose the word nation not in the political context, But in the spiritual context,
Yes.
that God created man to be a nation.
Yes.
Not nation in the political definition, nation in the definition that takes the concept back to origin.
Yes.
Origin. So we have it in Qur'an where the religion itself is taken back to origin.
Right.
Al-Islam, the religion of Islam, Deen al-Fitra, the religion of origin, originality, the religion of originality. That originality that God patterned man upon.
Yes.
التي فطر الناس عليها. That originality that God patterned man upon. So this is the nation. This is the real nation. Now, isn't it kind of a coincidence, a strange coincidence maybe, that the term nation, the English term nation, when you take it back to its root, it goes back to origin. What was in the beginning? Native, nativity, nation. They're all of the same root. Now, when we call ourselves a nation in the Quranic language, we say ummah.
Yes, sir.
Ummah. God says that he made us ummatan wahida.
Yes.
Long before the founding fathers said one nation, Allah said he made us ummatan wahida. You are one nation.
Yes.
One nation. But now, is this ummah the same as nation in English? Yes and no. Ummah in its meaning does not influence a political idea at all. To develop. It does not influence the development of a political idea of a nation. No. It is a religious community. It is a religious community. It is a community under God's authority, following God's will as given in God's revelation, following the Qur'an. That is this ummah. That's this ummah, this nation, or this community.
That's right.
And ummah also takes us back to origin, though,
Yes, sir.
because ummah is an ummah and ummun, ummatun, or ummah, and mother. It's from the same origin, from the same root. They're from the same. Mother and nation are mother and community, from the same. So the interest with nation in Farah's work is hope. It is hope that that interest will eventually bring us back to originality.
Right.
So really, the purpose with Farah was not to make us a political nation. The purpose with Farah is to make us a community after the original nature that God created us for, or created us in, that original nature. So this is Farah's idea. You know, nature too is connected to the same word. The U-R-E is a suffix, as the I-O-N is a suffix. The stem is the N-A-T. Nature, nation,
Yes.
nativity, origin, all these tie into the same thing. So we're talking about the beginning life. Life as God created it and intended it. Now, some of us will right away think that the beginning life, my time is up. The beginning life, I just looked at the clock.
Hey, buddy.
That the beginning life, you know, is life in savagery. No, Muslims are not to believe that way. Religious people are not to believe that way. We believe that that the beginning life was the life in paradise, the life in the garden,
Yes.
the life of our first father and our first parents. Isn't that the way we're supposed to think? So when we talk about the origin, we don't go to the bad happenings in history to see that origin. We go to Revelation to see that origin. And Revelation from God says that He made us good and obedient to Him and in the nature that He intended for us, and He put us in a garden of paradise.
Right. Yes, sir.
You see?
Yes, sir.
So Farad wants us to go back to Eden.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
He wants us to go back to that nativity. He wants us to go back to Eden. And the proof of it is he talked about the original man, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That's a big theme. That is a big theme in Farad's teaching, the original man. And he claims that the black man is the original man. Mm-hmm. Now let me tell you, when he said black man, he was not speaking any more to the blackest one of you than he was speaking to the lightest one of you when he said black man. The people he was speaking to were the victims of Western civilization, the victims of plantation slavery, the victims of discrimination in the United States, etc. That's the people he was speaking to. He's speaking to those people when he said the black people, the black man. He said, you are the original man. All right? Now, I said he wasn't speaking to the blackest one of us any more than he was speaking to the lightest one of us. Why? Because he's speaking to that is inherent in us.
Yes.
He was speaking to the hereditary life that God created. And the language of the introduction to this Constitution of these United States say that all men are equal, right? Born with certain inalienable rights, right?
Yes.
Born with these rights. So the Bible talks about a common heritage and a common heredity, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Pardon me, not the Bible. The introduction to the Constitution talks about a common life, a common inheritance, a common hereditary treasure. And it says inalienable rights that we're born with and endowed with by our Creator. That's what it says. So here is a Constitution identifying us all together on equal footing, on equal plane, because of our equal claim to be the original creation of God. Is that not true?
Yes, sir.
And here is Farad saying to us that you are the original creation of God. But instead of saying original, he says the black man. And then he qualifies it by saying original black man. That not true? You who know the language. He said the original man is the Asiatic black man. So he makes black and original almost synonymous, doesn't he? The original man is the Asiatic black man. And he said that Asia is a name for the earth before it was split up and called by other names. So Asia is a name that he gives in his own language text. Asia is a name he gives to the earth. So just forget it now. He's talking about the one place. There's no other name for any other place, any other country, anything, or any other continent, but one name. Now let's get rid of his one name that he gave us, Asia, and let's say earth. Huh?
Yes, sir.
The original man is the earth, black man. Now, we didn't say Asiatic. We said earth.
Yes, sir.
The original man is the earth, black man. Earth, black man is the way of saying that the black man that the earth produced before man changed things.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
So this is the original man. Black is same. And the original, what comes before our learned mind is our nature. Is that not true? the nature. And the nature is our hereditary life. That's the nature, the hereditary life, the life we inherit from our fathers. I can't inherit my father's mind. If I had never seen my father and never heard a word from my father, I would know nothing of my father. But I would have certain hereditary factors in my life that if somebody saw me that knew my father, say, boy, what was your father?
Yes.
They might be the one to tell me who my father, because they knew my father, right?
Yeah.
But they recognize my father in me because I carry hereditary traits, hereditary marks from my father.
Yes.
The hereditary life is our original life.
Mm-hmm.
The conscious life is the life we learn in the world.
All right.
Hmm?
Yes, sir.
And God made the hereditary life, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
The first man, the first human being on this earth, he had his hereditary life. She had her hereditary life. And God made it. And God put them together and mated them together, and they passed on their hereditary life to their children.
Yes, sir.
See, hereditary means nothing but you got it from somewhere. You inherited it. You got it from there. It was passed down. And strangely enough, the language for putting us on this earth is down, isn't it? Well, he comes as a thief in the night. Comes as a thief in the night in dyed garments. Now, what is his purpose? To save the black man. See? His purpose was to save the black man. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that nothing was stronger in Farad than his desire to kill the white man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were told that he came to save us, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he had no stronger desire in him than his desire to kill the white man. Now, my belief is this, that he was one of those who read the writing on the wall for himself,
Yes.
and came to the conclusion that the time of the white rule was out, was up. And now all of the forces are going to be competing now to see who will get influence over the minds of the people of earth.
Yes.
See, that's the rule. The rule is not a political nation. The rule is not an army, a physical army. The rule is by influence. That's the rule. Who will get influence over the minds of the people of the earth? So being a Muslim now, he would like to see the war won for Islam.
Yes.
So he devised a scheme to win the war.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And his scheme is to use the donkey of the white man
Yes.
to bring about the fall of the white man. Now, this was taken from the Bible too. There was a man riding a donkey, right? And he had abused that donkey.
Right.
And an angel came and changed that donkey's mind. And that donkey refused to carry his rider any longer.
Right.
And the donkey was suddenly transformed from the image and life of a donkey to the life and voice of a man. So he spoke to his master with man's voice, not with donkey voice anymore. This is Bible.
Yes, it is.
So here is Farad now. He's using the donkey of the white man. Well, really, that ain't enough to say donkey, because the white man had other donkeys.
Yeah.
The donkey,
Yeah.
the twice over donkey of the white man,
Yes.
or the 3-time donkey of the white man. I don't know. We got to make a distinction between us and the other donkeys that the white man had. Yeah. So he comes and uses the donkey now to really dethrone, see, making him get down off his back, that means he's dethroning him. To really dethrone or take from power his rider. And believe me, nothing has broken the power of the old white America more so than the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he got from Farah. Nothing else has worked to influence the society and influence the leaders and to just go in and pour poison gas into their minds and to change their thinking and confound their heads. Yes, nothing has worked to do that more so than the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
They say, where did this come from? Who is this strange man? You think the communist doctrine was studied by America? I don't believe any doctrine has been studied more diligently by the intelligence department and other wise people of America than the teachings of Farah that he gave to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Right.
I studied it. Yes, I studied it. When I saw that we were wrong, I said, well, I'm going to have to know it. So I studied it. And I came to the conclusion that the insight of Farah definitely superior to the insight of most people in religion. His works were wrong, he did wrong things, but his insight was definitely superior to the works of the insights of most people in religion. He was a man. Now here he is. He's taken it upon himself to lead his army. One man. He said, I come alone. He said, I will do it by myself. I'm the Son of Man. Tread the winepress alone, etc. See, all of the same language he's taken from the concept of the Son of Man in the Gospel, in the Bible and in the Gospel. So now, one man takes it upon himself to compete with the world for influence over the thinking of the people on this earth. One man. And through us, I repeat, he has had great influence. His influence has been great.
Yes.
And no way that I could have been produced if I hadn't come through that experience. No way that I could have come into the mind that I have if I hadn't come through that experience. You know, I'm going to have to close in about 10 minutes. Yes, I'll close in about 10 minutes. It is the way of God to respond to an issue according to the gravity of that issue. Now, we can't even see God responding to light matters, do we? No light matters, no. But the more serious the matter is, the more influence that the happening has, the more God will become involved.
Yes.
And this is good sense, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Now, the white man didn't do no small wrong when he brought us from Africa and made us to believe that we were inferior to him by nature. By nature. That we were created inferior to him. This is what he made us believe. And don't blame just the South for this. The North believed that too.
That's right. Yes.
And some of them still believe it.
Yes. That's right.
So that was no small sin. That's no small crime. To bring a people from their land, native land, and put them in bondage and make their children believe that they are born inferior to other people. And then have those that are taught that think back across the water, across the Atlantic, to their people over there, and think that they're even more inferior than we are.